Everybody, thank you so much for coming today. This presentation will go over Indigenous student success abroad and how you can get started. My name is Holly Wheeler and I'm an Education Abroad Advisor here at NAU, and I traveled abroad to China and India. But before I jump into the presentation, I do want to give a land acknowledgement. And this land acknowledgement is actually given by Courtney Hale, who studied abroad in Japan and South Korea.
Northern Arizona University sits at the base of the San Francisco Peaks on homeland sacred to Native Americans throughout the region. We honor their past, present, and future generations who have lived here for millennia and will forever call this place home. Doko oslid benagya bidzilko oltra belhas ado bitsin yishkliji eya yego deidesin. Alkidan holjishten do dijin de do ne nitjin ano salagi datinilsin do akonde kedahat.
So you'll hear more about Courtney's story later in the presentation, but I studied abroad 4 times when I was in school, both as an undergraduate student and a grad student. And I will tell you that it was a life-changing experience, like many of our students will tell you when they return home. My first study abroad was to China on a faculty-led program with a professor from my university. It was my first time, that far away from home and in this very different culture. I was a heritage-seeking student, meaning I have Chinese heritage, so I was going abroad to try and find that part of my identity. And it certainly wasn't what I expected when I returned home. I realized I was very much an American, but it did help me understand my family a lot better and really come to terms with this identity struggle that I was having my whole life growing up in as a racial minority in Wyoming. So I went back abroad again for a Mandarin language study program during my senior year. And then in grad school, I went to India for a service learning. And then after I graduated, I applied for a Fulbright grant and I spent a year in New Delhi, India teaching English. And Fulbright is a fantastic opportunity for our students and they really highly value diversity. So I really encourage all of our Indigenous students to check out Fulbright as a post-graduation experience. And we have a lot of support on campus to help with that application. So this is our building, and we would really love to invite you to come learn more about study abroad so that you can experience the world with us. Our office is on North Campus, which is here in Bloom Building number 2, right next to Gamage, which is where financial aid is. And right now we're not currently having in-person appointments, but we anticipate this fall everything will be back in person. So feel free to check out our website and make an appointment and come visit us in person soon. So I want to show you this quick video to introduce you to our opportunities here at Education Abroad. My favorite thing about that video is that all of the clips are NAU students that have studied abroad. And this quote, I think, is something that really embodies what study abroad is. It's pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone so that you can expand your world and expand your life. And it's not easy, it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of overcoming your fears to do that. And we want you to know that we're here for you every step of the way. So why should you study abroad? Well, first, again, it'll expand your worldview. You'll be able to go places that you've never been. You'll be able to see things that you've never seen. And you'll also gain a new perspective on your field. So sometimes we have students that just want to see as many places as they can, so they save all of their electives and they go abroad for a semester and travel every weekend. I have other students that are really interested in becoming a marine biologist, so they go to Australia, they do field work, they take classes in marine biology that are not available here. I have other students that have just been obsessed with Japanese culture their whole lives, and they want to feel what it's like to be a Japanese student on a Japanese campus, so they go and spend a year in Japan. So really, study abroad is all about your goals and what you want to do with this time. But really, there's no better time for you to do this than when you're in school. You have access to financial aid. You're going with people that are your own age, and you have all this extra support from the university. So there's really no better time for you to do this. You can pick up a new language or practice one that you're already learning, but you can also take courses taught in English all over the world, not only in great places in Europe and Australia, but you can also take courses taught in English in unexpected places like South Korea and Ecuador and other places like that. So really, there are so many choices for you, and we'll help you find the best choice. You'll make international friends, you'll enhance your resume, and of course, you'll push yourself to grow far out of your comfort zone. So did you know that only 0.4, that's less than 1% of US students that identify as Indigenous study abroad? That is such a small number, and we want to change that. Here at NAU, we believe that every student deserves the chance to see the world, and we really do share NAU's strategic mission in serving the Native American students and community. So I like to point out the statistic to show you that this is something that not that many students are doing, but we really want to encourage you to take this leap. And you heard from so many of the presenters this week what a life-changing experience it is. And we're doing all we can to really address specific Indigenous barriers and how we can make this possible for every Indigenous student on campus. So when it comes to indigeneity abroad, not only will you do all those other things that we talked about that all study abroad students are experiencing, but there are specific special things that you might experience as an Indigenous student abroad. You'll gain a new perspective on your own country, culture, and identity. And I think that you might find that this is the most impactful when you're learning about other Indigenous issues and cultures, as well as the impacts of colonialism abroad. And when you come home, you'll be able to educate your own community and build your own nation with all the skills and connections that you're bringing back. So I encourage you to, again, check out all of our options and see what we can show you together. So race and ethnicity abroad, this might be something that you're concerned about. And when you go abroad, the first thing that people will notice about you is that you're an American. This might feel different than what it's like when you're here at home, when, maybe you've been noticed that all these things that you are here in America, but when you go abroad, you might be seen as an American. In addition to that, you have another layer to navigate, which is what it means to be a Native American abroad. And actually, Courtney, I'll share this video in a second, and she'll give you a really good story about what it was like for her to represent her own indigeneity abroad. There will be assumptions made on your physical appearance. There were definitely assumptions made on me when I was in China. Everybody thought that I was Spanish from Spain, which was very fascinating for me because I identify as a multiracial person, and I was going to this place that I thought I was going to have this connection with, and then it was very unexpected what happened to me. So assumptions will be made. There might be staring, there might be touching of your skin or hair. And there's just different cultural norms and expectations for what is okay in other cultures. So we give a big pre-departure meeting before you leave, and we kind of try to expose you to what those differences might be so they're not so shocking, but in the end, it will be shocking, I think, for you at times. Sometimes people are just curious. They just want to know, like, oh, you look really different than all the other people around me. Where are you from? No, what are you? Okay, where are your parents from? This same thing that I've heard over and over probably will be familiar to you if you identify as, a person of color. But the person that is curious about you is very different than the person is threatening you. And so those are certain situational things that you need to be aware of. And we, again, try to prepare you for those experiences, but recognizing when it's just curiosity and when it's a threat. And of course, your personal safety is the most important thing. So you'll want to evaluate all these situations and do the thing that's safest for you. But I want to share this short video of Courtney's experience when she studied abroad in Japan and South Korea.
Hello, Yat Esh, Edel Judene Esh, Courtney Crystal Hale, Yanishia. Kia Auntie nishla nanaj ajata chikni pashishin tapaha tasha check tutuk oja etashinala dating det nasha shama dosha a Florida David Hale Willia shama sana a Laura Williams Willia akut ego asana nishla. Hello, my name is Courtney Hale. I'm a student at NAU and I study secondary education English with double minors in Asian studies and Navajo language. I am from the Diné Nation and I studied abroad in Japan and South Korea. My initial decision to study abroad was one that I kind of just pulled on my parents. Like I mentioned it, like, hey, I want to study abroad in Japan. And I didn't really give them much time to think about it. I got the application like immediately. So I didn't give them much time to adjust. But my decision to study abroad came from my general curiosity about what lies beyond the reservation borders. Like, I know what happens in Gallup, what happens in Farmington, what happens in Flagstaff, general border towns, but I never knew what lied beyond that. That's generally where my curiosity for learning about other cultures and for traveling the world, that's where that comes from. It was a really scary decision because I didn't know what it was like in different countries. I didn't know what the livelihood was like. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I would eat. I didn't know how I would adjust to everything. But I think that's a process. It's in the process when you're going to study abroad, is that you have to get over that fear. You have to push yourself to get out of that bubble that you created for yourself. Because if you stay in the bubble all your life, it's not going to be fun. So that was my real push to get out of the country, get out of everything that I knew was normal. And it was a bit odd because it was a completely different culture from what I was used to. On top of that, Japan and South Korea don't speak English. I didn't know either of the languages when I went abroad, but it was something I wanted to do anyway because I was interested in the culture, the language, the people. I wanted to learn from them. It is a general learning process along the way, and that's the best part about study abroad, is that not only are you getting these certain credits for or whatever for your home university, you're getting to be amongst these people, amongst this culture, amongst this years of tradition that this country has that's unique about them. And it's a beautiful experience, even though I only went for like a month in Japan and then a month in South Korea. It was the best thing that I could ever hope for. And along with learning about different cultures, I was able to teach people about my culture. The kind of attitude that I got was that we're something of the past. We're something that probably died out a long time ago, and there's no such thing as quote unquote Indians anymore. It was nice to go abroad and like, hey, I'm living proof that that's not true. We are still there. We are still continuing our language. We're continuing our traditions. We're continuing this culture that we've thrived on for hundreds of years. There's no such thing as the dead Indian. We're still here, and we're proud to be here. I remember that instant when I was in Japan and we had just gotten done learning the art of kendo, which is like a type of sword fighting. And these three little girls came up to me and they asked me where I was from because I didn't look like anyone else in our group. Their idea of what was American was someone with pale skin. And so we had to have a little back and forth like, no, I am American. And then explain what it was to be Native American. And then in South Korea, I was amongst different college students from different countries all around the world. Even people from the United States, they had no idea who I was or where I was from. That's another major component of study abroad, is that you get to teach about where you are. Even if you're like not necessarily Native American, you have a unique background, you have a unique lens to America that not a lot of people get perspective on. If I get the stereotype correctly from what I got in Japan and South Korea, Americans eat hamburgers and are loud and are very rude. You know, you get to debunk those stereotypes. You get to say like, yeah, we do like our hamburgers, we like our fries, but we're also like this. There are different things to do where we're from. There's different things that I do that's different from everyone else. And that's a really great part of study abroad, that you get to teach who you are
as an ambassador for your country.
So Courtney really grew so much during her experience, and I think she's a great representative of NAU and the power of study abroad. But I really want to point out that, there are many intersecting identities that you may have. Of course, you might have a tribal identity, but you might also identify as multiracial. You might identify with a different ability status. You might identify as first generation, LGBTQ, a transfer student, a commuter student. You might be a student with a study plan that is not easy to go abroad. And all of these things make you who you are, and they all intersect. So just because, this presentation is labeled Indigenous Student Success Abroad doesn't mean that we're only talking about those things. So I just want to acknowledge that we understand that you have many identities and you're so much more than just a label. And we do our best to try and figure out all those intersecting identities and provide you different resources that are really tailored to you and what you need. And any feedback that you can give us to help you on this journey, we're more than happy to listen and try to find ways to make this possible for you. So where do you begin? Education abroad has over 500 programs all over the world. It can be really overwhelming to go on our website because there's just so many choices. We do have a specialty program here at NAU called IGP, which is our flagship study abroad program with Epic Impact. And you can go abroad for the semester, a full year, summer, winter, and even spring break. So lots of choices for you. And we'll work with you one-on-one to narrow down what your goals are, what you're interested in, where you want to go, how much you want to spend, all of these different things to find the best match for you. So we basically have 3 different types of programs. We have exchange programs, provider programs, and fieldwork programs. And I'm just going to briefly explain what each of these are, but know that, when you come and make an appointment with one of the advisors here, we'll really dig into the different program types and which one will be the best fit for you. So our first type of program is called an exchange program, and this is where NAU and another university abroad have a special agreement where we exchange students back and forth. So if you've ever noticed that maybe you have some international students in your class from around the world, they may be exchange students that are spending a semester or 2 here at NAU, and meanwhile, there are some NAU students studying at their university. So we have over 200 exchange partners around the world, and the coolest thing about exchange is that you can use your NAU tuition scholarships like your Lumberjack, Presidents, Blue, Gold. You can use those on exchange programs, which is actually not as common at other universities. So we're really proud of this fact, and it makes study abroad really affordable for you, because if you go somewhere where cost of living is less than Flagstaff, which let's admit is like most of the world, you will actually save a lot of money, and you can spend that extra money on your flight, on traveling on the weekend, on doing other things that you want to do. This is one of our partner universities in Germany. The second type of program that we have is called a provider program. And I think the best way for me to explain this one is that another school or another organization is providing you with academic credit, meaning you're going to pay them instead of paying NAU for academic credit. It's a little bit confusing, but what you need to know is that it can be really affordable for summer programs versus staying on NAU campus and taking classes, or if you're out of state or you don't have as many NAU tuition scholarships, sometimes the programs can be a lot cheaper to go on than paying NAU tuition and staying here. So like I mentioned, you can't use the Lumberjack, but depending on your personal situation, maybe you don't have the Lumberjack and it's way cheaper for you to go on this other program and save some money that way. You can apply your financial aid and some outside scholarships that are not tuition based, and we'll of course go through each of your scholarships with you to figure out what you can use. And like I said, these are kind of non-NAU programs. So this program is one where you go do field work in Africa, and it's a really cool program. You go on safari and do all these things, and that is a program that's not run by an NAU. We don't run that program through NAU. However, we do run our own summer programs called NAU-led programs, and this is where you can go on a summer or winter or spring break program with one of your professors at NAU. So this type of program was actually the first kind of program that I had gone on. I went with my Chinese professor and some students from my class, and was really a great way for somebody who was a little bit nervous to go abroad alone, a little bit apprehensive of the flight by myself. And so we all went together, and it was a fantastic experience where we made incredible relationships over our study abroad over the summer. And I still talk to all the people that I went with on the program. So we have many of these programs available to you to choose from over the summer. Depending on your major, you might have some special credit that you can get for your degree, or you might just go on another program for fun and fulfill some of your general electives. I do want to highlight our special program with Dr. Ora. She will be taking students not this summer, but the next summer to Australia and New Zealand, and you can earn 3 credits of upper division anthropology credit. So if you're interested in this program, keep your eyes peeled for flyers and other emails from NACC when we start promoting this program next year. So we also have fieldwork programs. Fieldwork is research, interning, or volunteering abroad for academic credit. You can also do this not for academic credit, but if you can go abroad and get some credits fulfilled by doing this, it looks awesome on your resume. And like I said, it could be cheaper than staying in Flagstaff and getting those credits. So this photo is Oscar. Oscar is the president of the Latinx Student Club, and he did some research through the MHERT program, which is a minority-based research program. He was in the Philippines doing research on rice. He is a biology student, and now he's a grad student here at NAU. So internships and fieldwork can be a little complicated just because depending on your major, depending on where you want to go, the prices, the exchange versus provider, all these things can get a little complicated. But if this is something that you're willing to put in the work to do, again, it would look great on your resume because only 1% of students do an internship or fieldwork abroad. 10% of students study abroad, 1% do fieldwork abroad, and of course, as we saw, less than 1% of Indigenous students study abroad. So you will really stand out on any job application that you submit in the future. And then our flagship program, IGP, or Interdisciplinary Global Programs. This is Fernando. He spent an academic year in China with IGP. IGP is a double major program where you have the first major a STEM or business degree, and your second major is one of NAU's foreign languages. You spend 5 years with NAU, and then one of those years is abroad for the whole year. The second semester, you'll do some kind of field work or internship. And yeah, when you graduate, you'll have 2 degrees, a whole year abroad, and tons of professional development that you've picked up along the way. If you're interested in this program, the applications are open, but you do need to come in during your first or second year and be on track with your classes just because there are so many classes you need to take. Lots more information on their website at IGP. And I just want to say that if you're not a STEM or business major, or you're not interested in getting a whole another second degree in language, we can still send you abroad and do field work and study language and all these things. This is just our specialty flagship program that has a lot of extra programming for your professional development incorporated. Okay, so I'm going to show you a video now of an IGP student who studied abroad in China. Her name is Jane, and she's currently in Taiwan right now doing a graduate program on a Fulbright.
Growing up on the reservation, not many people have the opportunity to study abroad or even go to college, but IGP helped me rediscover my identity and brought me closer to my heritage as a Navajo woman. Hello, my name is Jane Sandoval. I come from the Navajo Reservation, and I came to NAU to study engineering, Asian culture, Chinese, and to study abroad. IGP is a program where the students get to study abroad while learning a new language. So I went to Shantou University when I was in China, and I had the chance to take some Chinese learning courses and to work with lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. My favorite thing about China was the food, boba tea, and soups. So one of the biggest challenges that I found in China was going from a town of maybe a few thousand people to millions of people in the city of Guangzhou. And I was in this place where I was experiencing culture shock and upset with myself for putting myself into this position, but I came across these Native American people inside a random mall of this huge city, and they listened and they offered prayer and sage and talking through it with them reminded me of why I was there and my purpose of why I went to study abroad in China, to learn a new language and a new culture. My goal now is to be a leader in renewable energy for my community and Indigenous people across the world, helping us keep our traditional teachings while building our nations through environmental sustainability and technology. 大家好，我的名字是 Jane Sandoval. I'm a global ambassador of positive change and I'm a lumberjack.
So Jane's story is so inspiring. Jane applied for a Fulbright Research Award to go study renewable energy. So she is in Taiwan right now for 2 years, getting a master's degree that's fully funded. They paid for everything. And her whole essay, I worked really closely with her on her essay, was all about how her study abroad to China changed her life as an Indigenous woman, and how it really helped her find her place in the world, helped her find her purpose. And she hopes that when she comes home, she'll go back to the reservation and apply all of this amazing engineering skills for renewables that she's learned. And then she wants to take it to other Indigenous communities around the world. So it's such an inspiring story. She did a takeover for us on Instagram last semester. So keep an eye out on our social media, because Jane will be back, because we're not letting go of her great story. Okay, money matters. Look, I know every student I talk to, I ask them, what's the biggest barrier for you with studying abroad? And it's always money. It doesn't really seem to matter what all the other barriers are, which are all important, but money is always number one, and I get that. It's not a cheap thing to do, to go around the world on a really long flight and to spend all this money when you could be staying here working, or you could be, saving that money for whatever is coming up next for you. But I want you to know that there is money out there to help fund your experience. So we do have study abroad scholarships. The ASNEU Go scholarship is through NAU campus. There's also external scholarships like the Gilman Scholarship, which is up to $5,000 if you're receiving a Pell Grant, the Critical Language Scholarship, which is a fully funded summer language study. And then there's even country and major specific scholarships for, if you're going to Japan, or if you're going to Spain, or if you're studying this language, or if you're this major. So there are many, many scholarships out there, and we have them on our website, and we'll show you how to apply, and we give scholarship workshops to help you along the way. As a student earning academic credit abroad, you can also use your financial aid on most programs. So again, you could put all of those grants and your loans to living here on campus, or you could go abroad and spend way less on housing and meals and have all that money still to spend on other things. And then for tribal scholarships, I have worked with quite a number of students applying their tribal scholarships. Usually those have been approved by the tribal education offices. However, depending on your tribe and whatever conditions or paperwork that needs to be filled out, if you have a tribal scholarship that you want to apply to study abroad, we need to know about it as soon as possible to make sure we're getting your office all the papers that are required, such as like an acceptance letter from the host university or proof that you have signed up for this program and those kinds of things. We also have a great scholarship called the Mobility Scholarship, which is from a very generous donor, and it's for Native American and Native Hawaiian students. And so there is actually a specific tribal scholarship through NAU that is available for you to apply for. So last slide, what you should know. Please start as early as possible. Even if you think that, I'm not going to go abroad until my 3rd year or something, we want to plan out your classes so that we can make your study abroad the easiest and most fun thing for you to do while still fulfilling your degree requirements. So meet with us early, meet with us next week if you can, and plan out your classes, even if you're not planning on going abroad for some time. Any major can study abroad. However, some majors are easy and some majors are more difficult. And so again, this is why you need to come early and plan with us so we can target the classes that we have available abroad. You'll earn credits towards your degree. And again, you can take classes taught in English or in another language. There's lots of scholarships available for you to apply for, and you might even save a lot of money by going abroad instead of staying here in Flagstaff. So please follow us on our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and we're having students do takeovers on our Instagram every week or every other week. So if you want to go on there and ask them questions about what they're doing with their study abroad or where they went, their favorite things, be sure to follow us.